Today's voiceover talent is more than just a pretty voice.
Pretty voice.
Today's voiceover talent has to be a boss.
A boss.
Join us each week for business owner strategies and success with your hosts Ann Ganguzza and Gabrielle Nistico, along with some of the strongest voices in our industry.
Rock your business.
Rock your business.
Rock your business.
Like a boss.
Like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss.
Rock your business like a boss. A VOBoss.
A VOBoss.
A VOBoss.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of VOBoss. I'm your guest host, Tanya Rich, and I'm coming to you all the way from Bath in the southwest of the UK. So this is a little British invasion of the VOBoss podcast. Anne and Gabby are with me. Hello, ladies.
Yay! Hello. Tanya, what an amazing introduction. That was so awesome.
Well, you know, you're worth it.
Thank you. Thank you for the British invasion of our podcast. And for those of you listeners who are not aware, Tanya was our winner for our guest host contest on Instagram this month. So it was an amazing way to get to meet and get to know you, Tanya. And it's our pleasure to have you guest hosting. And we might have it become a thing, maybe.
Wow, that
every
would be
once
nice.
in a while. So Tanya, you have been in the industry for quite some time, close to 30 years, I understand.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And I obviously, that's the great thing about being a voiceover, isn't it? I did start, I was a mere child. But the nice thing about being a voiceover is it doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, it's how you sound.
Right.
So, yeah, I've been doing it an awfully long time, way before ISDN and all that stuff, you know, that everybody relies upon now.
Tell us a little bit of what it was like in the beginning for you, and how it's kind of changed today in terms of, I don't know, your day-to-day activities, how you get work.
Basically, when I started as a voiceover, everybody, or a voice actor, everybody travelled all around the country to visit studios. So we were a bit like kind of touring bands. So you would get, the end of the year, you'd get all the radio stations calling you. And booking you for the whole year in advance, which was marvellous. And then you would set off a plan. So you'd start in perhaps the north of the country and you'd work your way around. And along the way, you'd call the production facilities to make corporate videos and everything like that. And you know, it was a really fantastic time because I remember the first mobile phones, because before that we used to have to call our answering machines all the time and stopping at, phone boxes to get our messages from either our agents or clients saying, I know you're here. Can you come here for this time? And then all that stress, driving about. Then the first cell phones came in. They were great, those great big like comedy phones, that you see now. Weighed a ton, battery life of about 5 minutes. And the great thing about it in those days was you never knew what you were getting in advance. You would get your scripts and you could get anything from 10 to 50, especially the male voices. And you'd be anything from a fairy to a witch to a mother to a hard sell, anything. And I think that was a great training ground because it made us all incredibly versatile. Because we had to do everything. You were often 2 or 3 characters in the same script because it would just be you and another. So it'd be one female voice and a male voice. And that went on for years until ISDN was invented.
It's so interesting because there's a little bit of parallel there in what you're saying, of course, about having to do everything.
Yeah.
And being very, very versatile. It was the same way here in the States. But this idea of the touring, traveling voice actor, that's amazing to me. That's really neat.
Yeah, that's exactly what we did. And I mean, it was fantastic. And you just you just pick an end of the country. So say a company in the furthest point of the south of England had booked you, you'd just work your way back up to home. And you'd be away mostly all of the week unless you were working within an hour, 2 hours radius. Because, of course, you have to remember that us people in the UK, we find it incredible that in the States people think nothing of driving 100 miles to a supermarket, whereas we moan if we have to drive 5. So, we can't quite get our heads around the vastness of the USA. So I don't think you could do that in America. You just never do it, would you? And the other thing that I think was one of the best training grounds, we really learned how to breathe.
Ah, yes.
We did everything to tape. If you had lots of kind of thing,
yes,
the engineer would get very cross with you as he had to keep splicing you. So we all learnt to do diaphragmatic breathing and breathe really quietly.
Oh, that's amazing. That's a great nugget of wisdom right there.
Yeah.
Breathe. We've got to breathe properly.
Yeah, I actually got accused by somebody once of using EQ and a compressor, and I actually don't have one. I don't use one at all because my wave pattern was so perfect. They thought I couldn't possibly have done that just with my voice, but I did.
Well, that's impressive.
Well, that's because I had to, because you used to get shouted at.
Yeah, and that's very interesting. Like I can only draw a parallel here in live telephone recording, like when you're live telephony, because you had to be able to do it and do it properly and do it right the first time. Otherwise, you'd have to retake everything. Everything was live.
Yeah.
So, my question to you is, because I love this on your bio, it says, "Is this how you developed your larynx full of characters and accents?" I think that's a great reference.
It sounds nicer than the actual visual image conjures up, right? Yeah, it was exactly that, because you never knew. But I tell you what was fantastic in those days, apart from the fact the training and, having the experience. And nowadays, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in the UK, the radio stations tend to be owned by 2 or 3 large groups, and they have central production facilities. In the old days, it wasn't like that. Every radio station, and there was more and more coming online or on board, had their own production department, so that was amazing. But yeah, you had to do things and find out things that you could, you didn't ever think you were capable of doing. It was great. And of course, the laughs we used to have. You'd go into some sessions with makeup on and you'd end looking like Alice Cooper's mother by the end of it.
That still happens to me.
That happens to me here at home in my booth too. Just saying, on a particularly hot day.
Well, the heat is another factor, isn't it? Mm-hmm. For us ladies.
For sure.
But yeah, it was great. It was some very happy years.
Talk to us a little bit about the marketing process as you were developing and gaining experience as a voice actor. How did you market yourself?
Well, the first 2 years of my career, I spent as the second voice at my local radio station. So I'd gone in to ask them to audition me because my mother had done voiceovers when she was an actor. And they seemed to think I had what it took, and they just said they'd train me up. And I spent 2 years, learning inflection, going to the other voiceovers. Really? That number again? Where? And all these ridiculous things. So after 2 years, I had enough material to make my first showreel, which was on a great big, proper tape. And then it was made into cassettes for me. And then literally you sent out your cassette with the letter, hello, blah, 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 blah. Here is my voice reel. I don't know what we called it, my tape. And you got work from that way. And it was all snail mail.
Oh, yes. Snail mail.
Yeah. So
I remember sending demos out snail mail. It was not a fun process, but
on cassette. Was this on cassette?
Yeah. No, mine were on CDs. I'm going to say just
okay.
a little bit more advanced technology. But gosh, it's still, the process was crazy.
It was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And it was very costly.
Yes.
And that's something I find interesting because, when people complain sometimes now about the digital investments, about websites, I'm like, please, no. You don't know what it took me to get a demo out in 1998.
What
That's
a good point. Yeah, and the next time somebody says to me, I don't have, I'm going to just refer to that and say, back in the day, get off my lawn. Back in the day, I had to spend money on the print, right? On the print. Did you send mailers out too?
Yeah.
Like mail?
Yeah, headed paper, compliment slips, all these kind of things. Padded envelopes, and before that, it's like I told you about having the first cell phone. I mean, they were so expensive.
Yes, they were, and they were huge. And they were
huge.
Yes.
They were expensive. They were rubbish, really. So there was so much expenditure then, and everything took longer, and there was no instant gratification, which I think now people want.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
People want a demo and they want it now.
Yeah.
And I say it took me 2 years to make my demo.
Because you made it all off of stuff that you had done. And you had,
absolutely. And that was the other thing. Yeah, nobody had a made-up demo in those days.
I think that in the UK you approach demos differently than we do here in the States in terms of demo production. And I think it is more of spots that you've done, if I'm correct in that.
Yes. Yeah, you are right. Although a lot of the newer voices do go to people who make them show reels. And there are pros and cons to that.
Yes.
I have my own personal feelings on that.
No, and I can understand those, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, the thing is, unfortunately, there is no quick fix, because by making a demo over time, and whether that be one that's specifically written for you to showcase your talents that you have learnt properly, so you're a really confident voice, there is no quick fix, and that's why I think we there weren't people making us demos. You literally would go and do a job and you'd say, oh, I really liked that commercial or that corporate. Can I have a copy of it for my cassette? And then you'd wait, and then you'd get it on a cassette, and then you'd have to go to another friend and get them to put them all on a cassette for you. And it was time. It took a lot of time.
What's the market like from an international standpoint where you are as well? Like, are you working with other countries, or is your work primarily all coming out of the UK?
No, I work for other countries. I do some work for the US, not as much as I'd like, but I do some work for the US. I work in Holland, France, Australia, anywhere. Basically, you know what we're like, us voiceovers. We'll say anything
Anywhere.
For money, right? Yeah.
You'd be amazed at what I'll do for money, yes. That's what I always say.
How are you marketing to those other countries? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I have 2 websites now. So I have one that's really just for the US, and it's more kind of international and general voice specific. And I have an agency in the US. So I'm working for people that I've worked for maybe, probably about 15 years from the States, studios that have known me. And to be honest, I can't remember how they found me in the first place. It was probably when ISDN first came in, because I was one of the first people to have an ISDN studio. And then you just kind of I just troll people, and just not troll them, trawl the internet. And I just write to them. And a lot of my work comes from reputation, because that, again, is another bugbear of mine, what you say you can do and what you can actually do. And when you've got a client that's changing their mind every 5 minutes, that sorts out the women from the girls, shall we say, men from the boys.
Mm-hmm.
Very true.
I think we're really on the same page, us three.
And I love how everything you're saying just keeps reiterating the fact that it's a marathon, not a sprint, really. And I think anything that Gabby and I have ever spoken about in terms of being an entrepreneur and being successful in this industry really does speak to that. And I think people just need to have patience. And I think maybe the digital revolution has kind of made us very impatient. And I think we still, in terms of our businesses and our success, we have to really be patient with that and understand that it is a process. Even digitally, if I were to talk to you about websites, because I like how you have multiple websites depending on your market. I think that's a really great strategy to have. Even a website has to have some longevity, I think, to work success for you in regards to search engine optimization, let's say. I think you've got to be out there. You've got to have had some longevity on the web, and people have to have been to your website or be able to find you. And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I'm not prepared to pay, hundreds and hundreds of dollars to possibly move up from page 4 to page 1 of the Google rankings. I'd like to think that I would go up that way because people will start clicking on me and finding me. It's always interesting to me when I do these ranking things, because there's so many people that might come up on the first page as a British voice, but actually they're not always necessarily genuinely British. And that can be an issue. Or you see people and you think, well, okay, oh, you're there, are you? Well, that's good for you. But I had a very good advice with my website, and one of the best things I had, because when I was looking for a new web designer, I used an American company. They advised me to have my demos on the front page, because all the pages I was sending them from England, because a lot of the top UK voices have fantastically intricate sites with animation and all kinds. And I said, I want to look like this. And they went, no, you don't. Okay, tell me why. And they said, because when casting directors are going, they just want to go demo. And so I took their advice, and in the UK, people can't quite get their head around the fact. They'll say, could you send me all your demos? Say, why don't you go to my webpage? Every demo you need is there.
Right there.
Just download them. It's dead easy. In the UK, they can't quite get their head around that. So it's interesting, isn't it, how different our markets are in marketing.
That's going to work well for you in terms of marketing. So people will find you easier and quicker.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you know, I was going to say one thing about marketing. I don't know who she is, and you'll probably know this lady, but I remember when I was a young VO being very impressed by an American VO that had sent her mixtape from the US to English places. And all I can remember is this, and it shows how good her marketing was, but I can't remember her name, I'm so sorry, was she had a cassette, and it was something like the voice with a velvet voice, and it came in a black velvet drawstring bag.
Oh,
wow.
It was,
wow.
I thought, wow, that's
nice.
Class.
Right? Absolutely.
Yeah. I think, might have probably come in a Brillo pad or, wire wool or something. I don't quite know. But anyway.
How broad and extensive is your market in the UK? I mean, are you, I feel like here in the States, there's thousands upon thousands of voice artists that every day that pop up because, they've got a mic, a USB mic. What is it like in the UK? Are you feeling like there's a ton of potential people that are claiming themselves to be voice talent, or how is that?
Yeah, I always have this analogy, I love bathroom fittings. I love a lovely bathroom. But would I go tomorrow and buy TanyaRichExpertPlumbing.com and tell everybody that I'm a full-time plumber? No, I would not. I would go and learn my trade. And so, yes, there are lots and lots of people coming online all the time telling us that they're professional voice artists. And, yeah, that's all I can say. I think it's exactly the same situation here. Yeah. And there's, I have a real problem with what I call drip-fed showreels, because a parrot can repeat anything. Mm-hmm. And if they've got a basic vocal skill, they can do that. They don't need to have trained their ears to hear. They don't need to have trained their voice to actually change. And so people are booking people from reels from the first thing on the reel. Everybody knows you're going to put your best thing on there. And if you've repeated a line after line or it's been chopped together, the first one's going to be great. Now, what happens when they get a job, and we've said that clients change their mind, they might start off saying they want a woman sounding this. By the end of the take, you could have lost 10 years, gained 10 years. You don't know what they want, and they don't know usually. If you're only as good as somebody drip feeding a line into your ears and patching you together, what are you going to do? And so now we're getting a situation when some people are being told, we'll pay you for the session, but we're not going to give you the transmission fee or whatever, say it's a TV ad, until we've decided we want to keep the audio. Now, that is something I have never had said to me, ever.
It's happening here.
Mm-hmm. Is it?
Same exact scenario where clients are now saying we will pay for the session, but we will not pay for the audio until we know we're using it. And if they decide to release it and not use it, that's it. You're only getting paid the session fee.
Are they releasing it, though? Are they just not releasing it because it's not good enough?
I mean, that's a good question. Sometimes I think we see situations where it's an advertising agency that maybe is pitching their client and they're not sure if they're going to even buy into the idea. So it's sort of a creative unknown. But yeah, sometimes it's that the client goes, this voice actor is not working for us. We're going to have to get somebody else.
Well, I did have one person say that to me, and I said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you will want to use it. That's the end of that.
I love that confidence. That's amazing. Well, everybody needs that. Of course.
I don't mean to sound arrogant, but
no,
why wouldn't
not at
they?
All.
It's
no, not at all. I think that's incredibly confident, and I love that. I think that manifests success for you. Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I mean, it's genuine confidence because I've earned it. I mean, I'm lucky. I've had so many situations when I've gone into sessions and they've changed completely. They've moved the goalposts from the beginning to the end.
Almost, yeah.
Yeah.
That's a large percentage of the time.
Yeah, exactly. I heard a commercial that I tested for Facebook, and they'd asked for like a kind of, I don't know, late 20s, early 30s, just regular UK, no accent, but very neutral, but very conversational. Yeah, fine, no problem. I didn't get the job. I never heard anything more. Heard the ad, saw the ad on TV. Young, male, very early 20s, London. There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly the same copy. Bizarre. I mean, I do some coaching and I will not none of my students are allowed to do a showreel unless they are absolutely competent VOs, able to handle anything, and they get loads of opportunities in different ways to handle anything. And I just say to people, if you want a quick fix and you want me to parrot the lines to you, you're coming to the wrong person.
Yeah, I totally, I get. I know Gabby's like that as well. Because you're right, absolutely. You want to be able to put your name on it and proudly know that person will be able to go in and execute when they're called upon. So
Yeah, well, when I coach after a certain period of time, I do a thing called Meet the Producer, but they don't see the producer, but we do a link up with an ISDN or Source Connect or IPDTL or whatever, and they're put into real life situation so they get their scripts, they get like a couple of seconds to look at it, boom, straight in the booth, cans on, somebody they don't know anything about them, they don't care who they are, they're not being kind, they're not being nice, they're just being normal everyday producers, and they've got 15 minutes to knock out 3 scripts, and that teaches them a lot, and then I get the feedback, and of course woe betide them if I get the same feedback as I've been telling them month after month or fortnight after fortnight or whatever. And that's how and then they'll suddenly think, actually, I'm not ready yet to go into the big world of VO, am I? No, you're not, but you will be eventually.
So you put your students through a gauntlet. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
She's just giving me some good ideas, I'm telling you. I love that. I love that.
But one of the things, as you know, as being a VO is one of the best things is having a nice voice is part of it. But if you haven't got good ears, you're really never going to make it.
Yeah, you do have to develop and train your own ears for sure. It's a luxury to be directed these days.
Oh yeah,
I love it. I love it, but starting to think it's a luxury.
But I love it. But I tell you what's interesting. You do a job for a new client, and you read their script, and you hear complete silence the other end, and you think, okay, and then they go, oh, yeah, okay, well, should we just do one more? Yeah, sure. Blah 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 blah. Oh, okay, well, and then the engineer will go, well, I can't think of anything else, can you? And the director will go, no, okay. And you feel like saying, sorry, who have you been working with that you're so amazed by what I'm doing? Because really, this is nothing special.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, it is, but it isn't,
Or they're thanking you profusely for...
Yeah.
Oh, we're done.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was great. You've got a professional.
It's really irritating to me, but you can't say that. And you want to go, well, instead of using them, why don't you just come back to me? Because actually, I've got a larynx full of accents.
There you go.
Boom.
I love it.
Speaking of which, how can people find you, learn more about you, get in touch with you?
Well, if you're in the States, you can go to TanyaRichVO.com. And and in the UK, I'm TanyaRich.co.uk. And if anybody wants to work with me, but I am a voiceover that coaches, not the other way around. And I only coach by audition. It's richcraft.biz. Thank you.
I like that URL.
Oh my God,
wow,
I love that.
That's one of my favorite URLs I've heard in a long time. That's great. Tanya, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. I loved hearing all your stories.
This has been such good fun for me because I very rarely get to speak to anybody else in my solitary life in the booth. Right. So thank you both so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Oh, God, it's been amazing. I want to give a big shout out to IPDTL bringing us together like this and sounding like we're all in the same room. I love my IPDTL. If you want to find out more, connect and record like bosses, go to IPDTL.com. Bosses, have a great week and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VOBoss with your hosts, Ann Ganguzza and Gabby Nistico. All rights reserved. Ann Ganguzza voice talent in association with 3 Moon Media. Redistribution with permission. Coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.